Newly released court documents claim that at least 20 agents from the FBI and ATF were in the crowd of protesters on January 6th. One America's Pearson Sharp has more.
The Democrats' January 6th debacle is unraveling faster than they can keep up with. And now, new court filings show at least 20 federal assets were embedded that day in the crowd at the Capitol. Defense attorneys say they combed through mountains of discovery, including official FBI forms and summaries of interviews conducted by agents. In the documents submitted by attorneys, they claim they have evidence there were 20 or more federal agents from the FBI and ATF planted in the crowd of protesters around the Capitol. If it can be proven, this is a huge revelation and validates what many have suspected all along, that the violent insurrection on January 6th was nothing more than a peaceful gathering of patriots that were incited to enter the Capitol by bad actors in the FBI itself. The government appears to have concocted this entire elaborate conspiracy all on their own, with the apparent goal of undermining President Trump, his supporters, and our freedoms as American citizens. The court documents say that according to the available evidence, there isn't one iota of proof to suggest the defendants had any plan, intention, design, or scheme to specifically enter the Capitol building on January 6th, which lines up with what we already know from protesters that day who actually described how certain people, like Ray Epps, were suspiciously encouraging them to break into the Capitol.
We need to go, I'll say it, all right, we need to go in to the Capitol. So I'm going to put it out there, I'm probably going to go to jail for it. Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. No! Peacefully. Fed.
This footage, along with reports from other witnesses that day, have raised questions that Epps may have been a government plant and was intentionally put there to instigate a riot. Senior members of the GOP are concerned about the government's potential role in the plot as well, with Senator Ted Cruz famously grilling top FBI officials about whether or not agents helped incite the violence that day.
How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
The FBI official can't answer any of Senator Cruz's questions, even the simple ones. If FBI agents didn't commit any crimes or incite any violence, then you say no. If the FBI isn't guilty, what possible reason could there be for not coming out and saying so? Unless these new records of potentially dozens of FBI agents planted in the crowd are true, and the federal government is responsible for deliberately provoking illegal conduct on January 6th. The fact is, we know the FBI has carried out similar operations in the past. In fact, very recently, with the alleged plot to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. A federal jury just declared 2 men in the Whitmer case not guilty, citing evidence that shows the FBI used agents and informants to trick and encourage the men into targeting the governor. And now we know that just before the January 6th protests, the FBI was also trying to recruit members of the Oath Keepers to infiltrate the group, just like they did with Governor Whitmer's kidnapping case. According to letters obtained by the Epoch Times, a member of the Oath Keepers named Jeremy Brown says the FBI unsuccessfully tried to recruit him to spy on the group in December of 2020. Brown says that the agents who tried to recruit him were the same ones who later arrested him for his alleged crimes on January 6th. This kind of thing is becoming standard operating procedure for the FBI and the federal government as a whole. Stage a situation, create a conspiracy, incite violence, and then use that manufactured violence as justification for imprisoning American citizens who never would have been involved in the first place if not for the FBI. And now, after potentially inciting, entrapping, and imprisoning these otherwise peaceful protesters, the party Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has the gall to go on air and cry crocodile tears over how repressive governments around the world are detaining political prisoners for peacefully protesting. Blinken said over 1 million people are currently being detained in more than 65 countries for protesting their governments. Presumably, that number also includes the Americans still being held as political prisoners from January 6th. Sometimes a government's march to tyranny is slow and ponderous, and you hardly notice if you aren't really paying attention. But other times, you can watch it happening right before your eyes. For One American